introduce our guest speaker for the session. I'll talk about the organization he is coming from and a brief intro about Siddesh. I hope you are able to see my screen. So, Leadership for Equity is a leading Indian education nonprofit working in the domain of education policy and the implementation. LFE basically partners with the local and state government in India to systematically support government institutions to deliver the quality education at the scale. Over last 7 years of LFE, they have grown to more than 100 people team, and currently I think they are impacting more than 3 lakh teachers and the government functionaries. So having a collective program reach of 8.8 million children studying in the government school uh, across 15 states, which covers Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Nagaland, Haryana, and Tripura. With onboarding partners like the World Bank, Bosch, Amazon, Bajaj, and etc., they're receiving global recognition from Skoll, Ashoka, Brookings, uh, and etc. So LF has been able to create meaningful growth on multiple systematic indicators like pedagogical skills of teachers and the leadership skills as well. Let me talk about Siddesh. Siddesh is the co-founder and the chief program officer at Leadership for Equity. He has worked with education system in many states across the country, and independent studies showed that their work in Maharashtra basically had impacted and resulted in more than 10% growth in the literacy and almost 20% in the numeracy across all the grades in the government schools. So we at Avni are partnering with Siddesh and LFE from last 2 years, and many product features in Avni have been built through for the TeachAP which we have built. I think it's getting benefited across multiple NGOs because of LFE so far. Siddesh is a both deep thinker and a doer at the same time. Thanks a lot for agreeing to join this session, Siddesh. Once again, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Any opening remarks, Siddesh, you want to give? Then we can start the session.
Yeah. I'm really happy I could be a part of this because I am also able to see the journey and development of the Avni platform over and above whatever the needs and demands of TeachAP. And last 2 years, I think there has been a lot of discussion among us with just this one use case. And I understand that it's a big, much broader journey in the sector that the Avni platform is taking. And glad to see that UI UX changes, which also got initiated with our discussion, is now taking shape and benefiting all the users across the spectrum. So very happy to be doing that, and it has been a learning journey for us as well, because coming from primarily education and pedagogical type of a background, and working closely with a primarily tech-centric organization and team members has been also a bit of a cultural exchange and knowledge exchange. So we'll be discussing all of these things hopefully through the conversation that we're having. But it has been an excellent learning journey for us working with Avni. So happy to be here and share this platform.
Siddesh, so
Thanks, Siddesh.
yeah. So I mean, you kind of started with the fact of different organizations working in different, and you coming from an education background, right? So you're right. Like Avni deals with technology, LFE deals with education, and the government, it's a different beast completely, right? So there are differences in expectations, working styles, and sometimes there are funders also involved in which makes another organization. You have the unenviable task of actually trying to merge everything put together, everything here, and actually being like the one in between, trying to connect everything. So what kind of changes, how do you navigate the situation, and what kind of changes do you do in your working style, communication, or what kind of say advice would you give for somebody in your position, or what are the things that have worked for you?
Yeah, thanks, Vinay. I think lots of questions bundled into one over here, but we'll take it one by one. One is, of course, how do we even navigate these multiple cultures and working styles, etc., coming together? The primary thing has been, and this has been the central problem of working in the development sector as well. I was wondering whether there's any app spotlight that was happening before this, or we are launching into this completely, because there was
This is the first time. This is the very first time.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So anytime you all do the product features and all of that, that's a separate story. But here I'm thinking more in terms of while working with the governments, our approach has always been human centric. So whatever relationship exists between either me and Arjun and Vinay, and me and the government officers and our team members who are working together, that is a reflection of the kind of work also that we are able to do together. If the relationship becomes strained, then we are not able to create that much value. So having that human centric approach to the work definitely helps. So it is, I mean, like you gave this conceptualization of the government as a different beast, we have a more empathetic and humanized version of the government, where yes, working with the government might not be the easiest always, but not everybody in the government is difficult to work with, as the stereotype may be there. So maybe not treating the government as a monolith and humanizing the various elements within the government, and specifically the officials that we are working with, is definitely a very important first starting point for us. So whether it is the IT person within the government who is operating within various constraints, resources and infrastructural limits that they have, at the same time a huge mandate of running the data and tech infra for the state. So that is understanding their limitation and still working with them. Similarly, within our team, the program team who is working, we are really, for us, the Avni platform or the TeachAP is a means to an end. It is, we really don't care whether the search bar is on top or on the bottom, or how is it that the data is seen. What we care about is that the teacher should be observed by the mentor. The observation conversation should happen. The score should be very transparently captured, and that is giving us some pedagogical insight onto the teaching learning processes. So it is a tool, but Avni is also looking at it from the fact that it's a platform for case-based analysis over time. So it may be useful in water, it may be useful in sanitation, it may be useful in health, many other applications, and education is just one of the different use cases for you. So this was naturally a very big learning curve for us. What helped with whether it is the adoption or whether it is accommodation, is that I think one is there were very clear project deadlines and project definitions, that these certain things have to be done because this is a hard deadline set by the government. There is nothing you or I can do about it. And then we also didn't know how to communicate requirements to a tech team. So we had to learn the language of how to specifically tell Vinay and team that this is what we want. And then Vinay had to then internally work with the developers to figure out, okay, if this is what we want, then what are the technical changes that you have to make. So those were really the things that we had to learn. And big thanks goes to our own internal data and M&E team, who used to codify what requirements and wish list we had and then communicate to you. Similarly, then whatever constraints you guys would communicate to us, that this is a platform, you just because like any other app you can't do basic development or screens the way you want. This is what the platform has, this is what you will have to work with. So then communicating the same to the government, that we are not having our own app, it is not like a standalone thing, we are working with a broader open source platform. That is why these are the only things that will work, and these are the only thing that is going to be available at this time. Then government will give us a requirement saying geolocation chahiye, we don't trust the people. Then how do we turn that on over here? Then translating that change back to the users is another challenge, where users will have to again activate it and give those permissions. So having a really strong field team with good relationships and WhatsApp groups with all the users also helped us do this. So what I'm trying to say with all of these examples is, accommodation made by the Avni team to basically humor all the deadlines and urgencies with which we used to approach. Accommodation made by the LFE team to understand what are the constraints of the platform and be realistic with our expectations of what can be done on the field and on the app. And then communicate and not overcommit things to the government in the air without understanding what is possible and what is not. So I think this frequent communication and accommodations on both sides of the table really helped navigate all of these things.
Yeah, that's really useful for us to know. So there are essentially two things that I understand. One is uh, to have quite a lot of human to human interaction when it comes to dealing with multiple people. And I guess the second thing is to have a really strong field team who will be able to communicate things to everybody broadcast at the same time and make sure that the engine is moving forward in some sense. Did I capture that right?
Absolutely. I think the human centric aspect of it between us, and then how a field team has to be oriented very strongly so that they are dealing with the end users and the adoption at the field level. Yeah, for sure.
And one thing you did mention about one was when you were talking about the government, when you said you go to them, tell them this is not our own product, it's an open source product, and this is how it works, and things like that. And one of the things I also understand is that you also kind of understand why the open source and why the product way, at least at Avni, right? We believe that open source and products are the way to go for building software for the NGO world. Now, the principle is that the grant money is a public fund. It's created by charitable humans across the world. And it has to be providing the highest return on investment possible because there is not too much really money that you can put into the tech space within the NGO sector. And what we believe is that the product and products work best because a significant portion of all the investments that you make are reusable. So when you build something, when you ask us to build something, it essentially is built, but it is reusable and everybody can actually use it. And there is usually some kind of synergy between us, Avni, and the organizations that choose with us. So my question is, it's more of a personal question to you, is what do you think about products versus projects and open source versus closed source? I mean, I know you don't really care too much as far as it gets the job done is one philosophy that you keep, but do you also have opinions about products and open source?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we do. One of the ethos in my conversations with both you and Arjun has always come through is the commitment to public goods. And that is something LFE also believes in. We also work with public school systems largely because we don't want a proprietary solution or something that is privately owned to something that is essentially a public service, which is education. Right, and that is something which is why we are supporting public systems and government institutions to improve, because that is where the heart of the magic or whatever the kind of service we are trying to provide in the development sector lies. So the ethos level is 100% matching, where there is a commitment to public goods and open source. What I have also seen is the finance layer that you brought into it, that it's a charitable fund and deserves to be utilized to the maximum value, is definitely an eye-opening statement. What my take on this entire thing is that in the non-profit sector, specifically in education, we are a big fan of proprietary solutions. EdTech also has been coming in saying this content, this way of teaching addition is proprietary to me. So you have to pay me some subscription so that I can tell you which is the best way to teach addition. Why cannot something that is a basic foundational literacy numeracy skill be open source? Let everybody benefit from it, and because I have done the job of creating that content, pay me some fee. But these kind of paywalls for these kind of basic information is something that I have been principally opposed to in my way of working. So it has been very gratifying to work with somebody with similar commitments. In fact, if funders come and tell us, which also happened recently, that why are you bothering sticking with this platform? Why not develop your own app? It will be much cheaper. You will have full control over it. Why do you want to do it? I said it will not have the use case and the lasting beyond this project. Then what do we do? Whereas this money, if we are using it, this same uh, changes that we are making is going to benefit the platform and actually give you more value on the money that you're spending. So that has actually been helpful in conversation with funders. Fully embrace the fact that this has to be done. Whereas the second aspect that is useful is in conversation with governments, where it is much, in our case, has been somewhat beneficial to convince them that we are using this platform. Because, say for example, you made the point about Metabase or maybe something like a superset. It's an open source dashboard versus something like a what is that which has what is Tableau, right?
Tableau.
Tableau has got much more it looks much more beautiful, but it's got such a significantly high per user cost that it becomes very unsustainable when we are operating at the scale of the government. So when we told the government that, hey, we have such a good looking dashboard with so many functionalities which is open source, they also got interested as to how it is that we are using it and how we are not paying, because government had invested a lot of money in Tableau. And they said, oh, you're getting all of these features for open source and it is secure, because the myths that many people in the government have is open source means it will not be secure. So the understanding cyber security, data security and encryption protocol versus being something open source versus proprietary was another conversation that it led to. And of course, we are not the technical experts to have this conversation, but we said that this is not the case that your data or the government data is suddenly going to disappear. There are multiple examples where open source products can be used for public use cases as well. So why not try it out? And then they were ready. The learning has also been that as long as there is a security audit, and this is related to the handover bit of it, as long as there is a strong security audit, which is a learning for Avni as well as LFE, government is okay with sort of taking over open source applications. So I think combination of all of these factors are definitely useful. And as an ethos, I completely believe in open source transparency. Community can edit, make changes, suggest edits, those kind of things. Yeah.
In fact, we are working right now with a bunch of interns as well who through something called the C4GT Code for Government Tech program, where there are students who are coming in and they are kind of contributing. So the metabase, like the automatic reports on metabase is actually being worked on by one of the interns today. And eventually it will get absorbed into the code base and be useful for everybody. So that's something that we're also trying to get in a lot more community involved in our processes right now.
That's
Uh,
wonderful. Yeah.
and when you talked about government, so you talked about the security audit and everything, right? So, I mean, we've done security and it's been a learning for us as well as to what all things need to be taken care when you're doing a security audit. And I'm sure there are 100 other things that you would have to take care to like try to see how to actually move the like an app from one place to another, essentially from us to the EMIS vendor who is running the apps for this program. So what kind of learnings or what kind of things that, and now that it's actually a proper handover to the government in some sense, right? There are a lot of organizations, even within people who are using Avni, who kind of work with the government, but right now they want to hand over to the government. What important learnings or what is the piece of advice that you would want to give them?
Yeah, I mean, more than advice, I can share our experience. One is similar to when it comes to working with government for anything, it is to ensure that there are some set of conducive circumstances that either are in place or we are putting into place. It's a combination of availability of financial and human resources, capabilities to even run something in the first place. I think bureaucrats, IAS officers have the vision for it. They know the utility that it serves, but they don't have often either a department or a support staff to be able to run this kind of a application and manage it on their own. IT departments of state governments usually maintain servers, databases, there is and at a big level stuff. So an app like this one is a 100th or 1000th of the kind of work that they have to do, and may not as passionately as a close group of people monitoring and maintaining it. They might just, okay, even if they migrate it onto their databases and servers, they might not take care of it and make those changes the way we might be vigilant about making. So one is definitely having the set of circumstances. What was helpful in this is that it was the project by itself designed for the fact that the government had to onboard it within 5 years. Second, we were fortunate that in the states such as Andhra Pradesh, there is also a robust IT department which have got a series of EMIS partners. Earlier, TCS was one of the companies which had supported the department, and now they have other companies who are strongly working on a long-term contract with the government to maintain not just the educational apps, but also other IT infrastructure and software infrastructure that the government would need. So one is project mandate, second is having this external partners that the government is working with be in place. So that made the transfer sort of easier, where we knew that there is only a limited time where an NGO can support. The narrative which we also came to the government with was that end of the day we are an NGO, we can't be expected to pay server costs for every time government employees are making entries. So at some point we have to also justify that we are a charitable organization, we have to hand it over. Secondly, working with multiple people, again, not expecting that, okay, mera kaam ho gaya, I am handing it over, tata, bye bye. Having a proper transition plan in place, working and hand holding even the EMIS vendors, the government functionaries who are responsible for it. And the third layer, which sometimes gets overlooked, is the policy layer. How do we put in place certain government orders and mandates which will ensure that even once the technical partner is walking away, the internal mechanism is going to look after it, which means that there has to be a social and educational relevance for that app. If nobody is utilizing it, then why is the tech team maintaining it? So ensuring that these kind of utilization of the app and some targets are baked into the job descriptions and annual work plans of the department. So that is one thing we have done. Secondly, ensuring that there is a clear mandate from the head of the department to the EMIS agency, which has a clear roadmap and a review sort of a cadence that every 2 months this will be reviewed, so you need to get this done. So having that policy and documentary mandate in place is also helpful. So to summarize, I think a combination of, again, working with that human touch, having a strong transition plan, baking the transition and handover in the MOU itself and in the project plan itself, availability of partners, and then that documentation and policy mandate.
Are these handover documents, is that something that you had to bring in, or is that something that was already present in the capability of the Andhra government itself in their policies and procedures?
Like, no, it was not, in the sense that where we had to ensure that the app has been created, but what is the app for? App is to ensure that teachers are supported, observations are happening, mentoring is happening. We are able to collect continuous data on the teaching learning practices of what are happening in the schools. So in service of that, this app should be maintained, the app should be utilized, and these are the targets, these are the review cadences that need to be put in place. This is something that we have co-worked with the government and ensure that they are releasing an order to this effect, which will ensure that at least there is some, at the field level utilization of it, so that the tech team also has the pressure in case, there are some issue resolution that has to happen. If it has been utilized, issues will come, and if issues will come, tech team has to resolve it. So it's more of ensuring that there is some document which mandates this to be done. That is useful.
One last question, but before I say that, the floor will be open for, it's open to everyone to actually ask questions. I'll just ask this question and I'll go silent next. I hope people are able to unmute yourself. If not, please put on the chat that, to unmute yourself. Okay, so Siddesh, what next? So you've digitized the WHO Teach completely into one app. It's been successfully used in AP and hopefully successfully will be used in Nagaland as well. Where do you plan to take this technology forward?
Yes. So, like I said, the technology is also hand in hand with the idea that we are trying to bring in. So that is something. So I want to again introduce a little bit of the background before we go into the future. In India, at least in the education sector, different people have tried experimenting with classroom observation. It is no secret or not an unknown fact that classrooms must be observed, and teachers, unless we are observed, we will not be able to support them. When I was a Teach for India fellow, every 2 months, one manager used to come and observe me, and on a detailed template give me feedback that this is something I'm doing well, this is something I'm not doing, and these are the 3 ways in which I can improve. So by the time they used to visit the next time, I used to ensure that I'm improving on those 3 things and prioritizing my energy and self-upskilling to that level. So if that same type of improvement and culture of continuous learning has to come within teachers in the government sector, this process has to be instilled. But the sheer scale of thousands of tens of thousands of schools, lakhs of teachers, crores of children. How do we make this happen? Because the classroom is still a black box. When we're sitting at the state level looking from a policy perspective, what is the actual end level teacher student interaction, where the breakdown is happening, due to which student learning outcomes are not coming, happens to be unknown. Now, what this technology process is helping us do is change the conversation from thinking that teachers are useless, they don't know to do anything, they ill-treat the students. Now, those kind of myths will be broken because we will have a human observer using technology, parallelly doing lakhs and lakhs of observations across the board. So last year, I think we had more than 1 lakh observation instances just in Andhra Pradesh alone. In Nagaland, we have got tens of thousands. In Maharashtra, we're going to be having again one entire district adopt this. So the idea is that we are so far apps etc. have been used for what? To assess if midday meal has gone correctly, to assess if toilets are clean, to assess if student attendance is happening or not, to monitor teacher attendance. But what we are trying to say is, through this technology platform and the associated program around it, we are saying the dashboard around how many teachers are asking an open-ended question to the child, how many teachers are treating students respectfully, how many teachers are respecting the autonomy of the child in the teaching learning process, are they using multiple forms of representation while explaining a concept versus just using the blackboard. All of this is now captured through this form, and we are able to get not only lakhs of instances, we are also able to get repeat instances to see if there is any delta in a particular teacher based on any mentoring support that have been given. And this data is now part of the dashboard at a Samagra Shiksha at a state level. So in addition to attendance and other demographic data, we are also able to see teaching learning data, and not just assessment data that X number of students are scoring Y percentage on addition and multiplication and so on. So we are able to sort of marry the two data sets together to understand what is happening. So this conversation is changing, and this idea is really powerful, that we don't just monitor outcomes and we don't just monitor attendance, we also monitor teaching and learning, and this is giving us a language to do so. And this, because of this successful implementation and handover in Nagaland as well as now in Andhra Pradesh, we are able to use this data and go to newer states and say that these are the 2 states which have adopted it. Already a technological architecture and backbone exists for it. Right? It is open source. A lot of development cost has already been incurred. So we can come to you at a much lower cost. We will do this for you in 3 districts. So help us out, and we will come to you with a solid understanding of where the breakdown is happening and how we can support your teachers. So that conversation we've been able to have really well. We have got a strong interest from Maharashtra now, where our internal teams are using it. We are going to go to 2 or 3 districts where we are going to have 100% teachers being observed using this technology solution. So so that is a future plan. Use the power and transformative stories from these successful case studies and expand to newer geographies, hopefully 2 or 3 states where we can do. The other thing, what the World Bank is now asking us to do is also handhold other organizations to do this. So why should LFE be the only one? Avni as a platform is open to everyone. Let us use that app, and LFE can build the capacity of other NGO partners to use this classroom observation technique, because end of the day, the teach tool also is a public good. There is no proprietary copyright on the teach tool. It's Creative Commons. Anybody can go to the World Bank website, download the teach tool, use the manual and learn it and implement it in their context. So we will be doing that as well. And we will be strongly advocating for having this kind of a technology backbone, because without it, it fails. Imagine 10,000 observers doing pen and paper. How do we aggregate the data and so on? So all of this is as an integrated solution, something that we're looking to make a strong impact in the sector and also partner with more and more government bodies to implement it.
That was very inspirational. I have more questions, but I'll stop right now for others because we have only 9 minutes left.
Yeah. Hi, Vinay. Himesh here. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I had one question for Siddesh. So what other technological tools have you utilized as part of your LFE organization, apart from Avni?
Right. Thanks, Himesh, for your question. We use basically, we have a very robust data and monitoring team. So what we are doing is we use Survey CTO for form-based data collection across the board. We have stopped using Google Forms due to some of the limitations that the tech team reported. So Survey CTO is one thing. We are using another Moodle-based LMS platform for our online courses and so on. And we are trying to develop an API to ensure that we are getting direct data from it. We use, of course, Zoom and other online conferencing platforms for webinars and online training sessions. We use extensively, we are using your ERP systems internally for performance management, attendance mapping, reporting, task management, that kind of a thing. We use Slack for internal communication and minimizing, and minimizing our internal emails. We are also using the Superset dashboard which is again combined with Avni to communicate large scale sort of data-based insights. We use Data Wrapper for presenting, visual data visualizations for our reports. So multiple type of a thing. We also have partnered with Glyphic for experimenting on a chatbot to increase our user engagement. So technology and data using that to influence our program design, and actually program design influencing the way data is or the tech solution looks like, which is how we have worked with Avni, where our program also influenced some parts of Avni. That is something we strongly believe in LFE, and these are the various products and tech solutions we're trying to use.
Yeah, okay. So just a follow-up question on that. So you said you use Moodle-based learning video platform. So this, I have not used Moodle or seen it before. So is this more to provide learning videos of a specific topic, or what is the purpose of it?
Yeah, so it's a learning management system. Basically, we have launched courses for teachers and government officers. So how do we ensure that the learners are logging in, completing their specific modules and courses, checking their progress, time spent online, capturing their pre-test, post-test details, those kind of a thing. It's like an entire end-to-end learning platform, similar to a Coursera or an edX. We are using some platform to do that. We are partnered with this organization called Firki. It is maintained by Teach for India, and they are helping us maintain. I mean, it's their platform. We are just utilizing it for the courses and rolling out our courses. So that's been a good sort of experience for us.
Okay, so this is mostly for teachers and officers, you said, not for the children.
Not for the children. Not for the children.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Siddesh, I have a question. Yeah. So as I'm not much aware about how the transition take place from the NGO to the government and what sort of role government has after the transition has happened. But I just wanted to understand, let's say for the Andhra Pradesh project where government has intervened now and the project is sort of handed over to the government, what sort of intervention LFE as an NGO takes, or what role LFE has after the government has intervened to track the progress of the project and everything.
Right. No, that's a great question. I'll clarify. One is that it is not that the project overall has been handed over. The app has been handed over to government. So earlier we were hosting it on our, we were paying for AWS and we were hosting it and taking care of the things with Avni's support. Avni was obviously the tech partner maintaining it. But right now the entire app has been handed over and is being hosted on government servers by the government internal vendors, right? So that is one change. The role that LFE had to do was we had to maintain detailed documentation, we had to enable the smooth transition, we had to get some sort of a empaneled agency to do a security audit and assure the government that if they onboard this, they will be secure and so on, and ensure that whatever the agency, the security audit agency mentioned, those risks, etc., have been neutralized. So those things, coordination we did. Now, having transferred it to the government, we still have 2 more years as part of the project to implement it. It is just that we are not running the app and we are not taking the headache of issue resolution. We are not taking the headache of logins and all of those things which we had to do. The government is doing all of that. We are focusing more on, okay, the app is there. How do we utilize it? How do we ensure that the observations are happening? So we have moved more to a field-based and program-based role right now, rather than worry more about the technology part of things. We have trained around 15,000 observers, certified observers in the state who would be utilizing this app, and each person will be observing around 20 to 25 teachers. So that's a huge number of teacher observation that we would be doing, and making sense of that, giving insight to the government, supporting the teachers, creating videos and programs for the teachers. That is going to be our role more, and helping the field observers conduct and utilize this app at a ground level. So that is more of our role right now, which is more programmatic in nature.
Thanks, Siddesh.
Yeah. Hi, Siddesh. Thanks for first of all, graciously accepting the invite to join for this call in a short notice. I think this was a lot of interesting information that I think that got out of this, and your perspective on them. One thing I think, when we initially started with the project, we started out with a lot of features, a lot of things we've done also successfully, like for example, security audit, UI, UX improvements, and like certain other features in the app. We had tried out with timer feature. I think that probably didn't work out well. We set out, I think the original conversation started with a chatbot use case. I was curious about the chatbot, this thing, even though, I mean, we've built the Avniglyphic integration part of it. I think that's probably ready for maybe the next project. I think here, based on the, I think the new agency's preferences, I was curious to know whether that itself is happening. If you can elaborate a bit on like what the use case was for the audience, and then I'm interested to know what the status is currently. Is that happening, not happening?
Definitely. I think the use case was fantastic when we had brainstormed on this. Uh, we have over delivered on what the mandate was. What the World Bank had asked us to do was take the pen and paper tool, which is a list of 29 checklist type of a thing, make an app, which is a form based data collection thing, which will digitize it, right? That was a basic mandate given to us. But we, of course, spoke to you, Lobo for Tech for Dev, he guided us, and we realized that what the problem is really, how do we change user behavior? User behavior meaning, how can teachers change their teaching learning practices? How can observers gain a clear, transparent, standardized insight on the quality of teaching learning practices? And then how can change be, okay, now I know that I'm at a level 2, how do I go to a level 3? Some input should be given to me. So how do we also democratize and make the process so transparent? So it is not that only I as an observer have access to your teaching scores. Everything is automated. So rather than build a communication feature into Avni or into any form-based data collection app or a chat feature, we decided that WhatsApp, where everybody already is, should be the choice of communication. Form-based data collection should be happening on Avni. Data should be represented and stored on Metabase, Superset, whatever it is. So this 3-part system basically works in consonance, so that data is collected, data is represented, data is reported and communicated to the stakeholders. So this was the overall solution, 3-part solution, which was much lower cost than developing such an integrated solution from scratch, and works well open source solution, except for the WhatsApp subscription piece of it. So the use case was that a teacher would be observed. After the observation, before the observation, the fact when you click schedule on Avni, a notification goes through WhatsApp that so-and-so observer has scheduled an observation, they will come to your school. So it's not like a surprise inspection. We wanted to create the behavior and thing that it is okay, you're going to be observed, this is a natural process, somebody is coming to support you. Then after the observation, based on the scores given by the observer, either the whole report card or top 3 behaviors, bottom 3 behaviors would go via WhatsApp to the teacher. Based on the bottom 3 behaviors, we would have created some learning videos. So say for example, I am not asking open-ended questions. I'm only asking very basic factual questions. So how to ask open-ended question is already a 5-minute video that I would have created. And if that is a low performing behavior for me as a teacher, I would automatically receive that video saying, these are the bottom 3 performing for you. It is not just you, many other teachers are struggling with this. So please look at this video. Maybe next time you will be able to integrate some of this. So keeping the communication very non-threatening, very non-judgmental, and still motivating teachers to learn. That is the use case. So automatic report comes in, automatic learning content also comes in through the chatbot. And I think that is the glyphic use case that Avni had already built out. But by the time we could, because it was not part of the original mandate, even though it was approved by the previous officer, the newer officer is like, this is more subscription and I don't want to do. And they had already entered into an agreement with another tech vendor for a chatbot. So they said, why not marry that chatbot to this solution? If chatbot is all you want, why do you want to give me your own chatbot? I said, okay, it's fine. If that is what the state wants, we'll have to play by that. And that is what has been done right now. I am informed by my team members that that solution is finally ready after 1 year of downtime. And maybe this August onwards, it will be deployed, where we'll test out this automated reporting and video sending. We will test it. We have done some testing of it. It seems stable at the moment, but we have not done live rollout at the field. So August onwards, we'll be rolling it out, and I'm curious to see how that will unfold. But in other jurisdictions, we want this as an integrated solution to exist.
Great, thanks. I think that's still fantastic to hear that it's like rolled out or ready to roll out. Would definitely.
Again, that's a proprietary thing. It is built by a company on a proprietary platform, which will obviously have a front end of WhatsApp, but it is not as maybe equitably built or the way, the ethos with which Avni would do it. But again, this is a state's call, not my call on how that should play out. So we are going with what we have, the cards on the table, we are playing with that.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, solution, fine. I mean, this is a different solution that's being put there in terms of different products, but still the use case is being operationalized. So I would be keen. I mean, we would definitely touch base on that.
Definitely.
How the use case is playing out compared to like the idea versus actualization. So how is playing out, how it is playing out in reality, that would be of interest. Maybe
I'm also curious, and I'll be documenting that. Hopefully we'll write about it.
Sure.
But it's going to be fascinating, because at an idea level it's beautiful. Sab kuch automatic ho raha hai, learning is happening, magic. But we'll see what
Right.
challenges we run into.
Thanks.
So a very, very similar question, and we are actually out 4 minutes over. But I did want to ask you one question. So similar to how you said you'll be writing about it, right? So I was wondering if like there are some outcomes from a technology intervention perspective, some kind of like a study or metrics or something that you plan to take out of the AP implementation by any chance?
Yes, definitely. So one of the things that has happened is that one advantage of the way this entire SALT project has been structured is that there is another implementation partner called Education Initiatives, and they run the student assessments. So they have reported some gain in the student scores as well. So the exercise that we'll be doing is mapping and seeing if there is any correlation between gains seen from the Teach tool, gains seen from the teacher development courses, and gains seen in the student learning, and trying to see if there is any significant correlation over there. Based on that, then we'll probably write a successful case study that a combination of all of these factors has potentially, obviously there is no there can't be any attribution effect, but we can say there is some contribution towards the broader change that we are trying to see. And here are things that we did. So if anybody wants to learn from it, one can learn from it. So that is the tone that we will be taking. So it will take time for all of this data to come in, the correlation studies, etc., to be done. But that is the intent that we have.
Yeah, at the end, at least if the outcomes are good, then we've made an impact.
In fact, we're hoping in the next 2 years, there'll be multiple more rounds of our own observations, plus teacher courses, plus student assessments. So maybe by December 2026, we would have a much more valuable lesson to be learned. Another thing, I'm glad to see 20 people are still around. What I wanted to say was JPAL is also going to be studying one part of this intervention in 3 districts in Andhra Pradesh, where again the Teach tool intervention with the Avni app being used. In 3 schools, we have come up with an RCT design where there will be only observations, observation plus chatbot and learning and coaching and mentoring, and control with no observations or nothing happening. These two, treatment plus and control. These kind of three group type of intervention we have designed. Sampling has been completed, and now August onwards that is going to be kicking in. The government has given permissions for it, and they have also secured grant for it. So I'm very, very eager to see over the next 18 months how this study progresses. And this is also an answer to what next. What next is the study of how well this intervention works, and see what we can learn from it to see what can be contributed to the sector at large. So very, very eager to participate in that study and learn from it.
Thanks a lot. Does anyone else have questions to ask Siddesh?
In fact, I have a question for you guys. How was your experience in working with an organization such as ours? You had very specific demands, sometimes unreasonable deadlines. It may have seemed very unreasonable to you when we came that, in 24 hours or 48 hours, government has asked, please build this out for us. So I know we have had a lot of back and forth discussions, and you all have tried your best to accommodate us. How was that experience for you from your development cycle standpoint?
So I can say only from my perspective, other perspectives can be different also. So a lot of times, yes, the timelines have been very aggressive and unreasonable as well in many scenarios, because like a lot of times it was just not possible, and we eventually it came out true that it actually didn't happen in many of these cases. And what we could do is just warn you that this is probably not going to happen, so you better prep prep everyone else that this is probably not going to happen, even though you say that it's going to happen. So that's one thing. I think from a communication perspective, things have worked out very well. And I mean, a lot of times, right? So when you have like a list of 10 items, and usually what happens is you need to start prioritizing the first two, the first three, and actually push that through. And that kind of a conversation was really easy to have with you or anybody at LFE. It was actually easy to get that prioritization conversation going wherever required. And whenever there are delays, it's been we've mostly been just transparent at saying this is what is really happening. And that has kind of worked out, at least from a delivery perspective, it has kind of worked out very well. So that's been, and I've seen, at least in most cases, that you've been mostly reasonable when it comes to asking for things. And when we say that it's really not possible, then you understand it's not possible, and it's not like we're hiding something behind the scenes and saying that it's not possible. So that kind of a trust worked out very well, is what at least what I feel.
Got it. And things like y'all were, I don't think UI UX was very big on your list of things to do, but it got bumped up the list because an opportunity came along.
That's
So
true.
it was very nice of you all to make that accommodation. But again, was that like a learning experience, or is that now something that you are going to use extensively in the future? What is the thought process behind it?
So it's in there, and right now we've not gotten enough feedback yet. I mean, we did a presentation, I think last month, where people were excited. The rollout and actual adoption has not completely happened yet. So this is like, it's mostly like the feature is there, but I need to actually switch it on for my implementation to use it. That's how it usually works. And we need to see this over the next 3 to 4 months. I think it will be useful, but at the same time, there is no data point to prove either ways at this point.
We have to get more feedback from the other users and other people.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much, Vinay.
Sure.
But Siddesh, I would add that definitely dashboard is looking much more beautiful. So I think thanks to LFE's effort towards pushing us, it was on our list for quite some time to do it. And I think uh, the project and funding opportunity that you brought, I think that helped us to pick it up and get it done. So that has definitely, I think, helped. Feedback, of course, from the actual users, once they start using it, I think we'll get to know.
Great. Thanks, Arjun.
Hey, then thanks a lot for your time, Siddesh. I know it's been short notice, and we actually extended your time as well. during this call, but this was a very, very
Very
informative.
happy to be here. Happy to be part of the conversation.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Actually, we would be sharing this recording with all the participants. If at all any questions people wanted to ask but couldn't ask because of the time constraint, then you can mail us the queries and yeah, we can get it answered.
And going forward, at least starting next month, we will have like a scheduled kind of a thing where every month we'll actually have what happened past month, and actually we'll invite at least one NGO during this time frame and see how to like how to take this forward. And most probably there will be at least one spotlight like what we had this year. Hopefully, I don't know how if we can get this discussion better the next time or not, but we'll try our best. This time we actually had quite a few people from existing implementations as well, who've kind of left out. Many of them have actually left at this time. But to everyone, thanks a lot for staying in, listening, and if you have any questions, if you want to reach out to us, you can always contact us at hello@samanvayfoundation.org, or go to avniproject.org and like fill out one of those contact forms. Once again, thanks a lot, everyone. See you. Bye.